So, if you ever asked most Dragon Ball fans who the better fighter is between Hit, the legendary assassin, and/or Android 17 in this conversation for today, I think a lot of people would immediately pick Hit, and I honestly get that, right? The time skip is still one of the coolest abilities we've seen in the series. The guy is a legitimate assassin. He fights differently from almost everybody else in the show. But the more I thought about this matchup, the more I realized an Android 17 might actually definitively be one of the most underrated fighters in all of Dragon Ball that the show has produced. But we'll go ahead and get into him a little bit later because I think there's some interesting points fans continue to overlook or haven't actually really discovered about his character for the first time. We'll go ahead and start off with the legendary assassin Hit. Now, let's start with Hit because I think a lot of fighters in the Dragon Ball universe, they get frustrated when something isn't going their way or it's not working the way they want. Hit is different. He doesn't have to rely on power or strength or even necessarily his techniques. It's his patience that I think is one of the rarest traits in all of Dragon Ball. He just keeps adjusting. Hit will sit there and watch your patterns, watch your habits, watch your routines before he decides how he's actually going to deal with you. So when you think about it, he might get too much credit sometimes because I think that's what people forget about his character is his patience and the fact that he knows how to fight. He knows how to use his abilities in real time, unlike certain characters who may only be able to do that in a short period of time or maybe at rare moments. Once Hit starts understanding his rhythm, things get a lot more interesting. And that's where the conversation for Android 17, I think, gets a little bit more deeper because Android 17 is an android. He's not a legendary assassin, but he has his own set of rules and parameters, right? So when Android 17 finally enters this conversation, we have to compare the patience of the legendary assassin Hit, and then we have to look at Android 17, who might technically be even a little bit more disciplined. Because I think what's funny is that for years, a lot of fans haven't really talked about Android 17 as an elite fighter. They talk about his involvement in the Tournament of Power and just, oh, I think he's a cool character and I think he's strong and this and that. But obviously, after the Tournament of Power concluded, fans started paying a little bit more attention to Android 17 because when you look at his actual performance, it wasn't a miracle run at all. There were signs already there that Android 17 doesn't waste his movement. He doesn't waste energy. He's not going to get dragged into unnecessary fights. And the most important thing is that he doesn't let ego make decisions for him. And I think that is also a very, very rare trait in today's Dragon Ball. So many characters lose sense of themselves because they want to prove something. Android 17 usually fights with a purpose. Sometimes that purpose is survival. Sometimes it's protecting his team. Sometimes it's protecting the wildlife as of more recent. But it's simply making the smartest decision based off of what's available. And because of that, I think he tends to avoid a lot of mistakes that other characters have made still to this point throughout the show's history. And that's why I've always viewed him as one of the most complete fighters in this series because Android 17 is not a guy that's going to go out of his way to make things more complicated, at least under this new direction that the androids have gone under. And especially when you take away the universe where they effectively killed everybody, completely different beings, right? And they're extremely intelligent for those reasons alone. So give me your thoughts. Android 17 and Hit. Who do you actually think is the more disciplined between the two fighters and why?